Hi, everyone. Thank you. And very happy to be here. So engineering velocity is alive. I didn't always believe that. But I burned a team or two learning the difference between moving fast and moving forward. So early in my career, I thought that performance was everything, and it was about just shipping faster. And I'm an engineer by trade, so I was really into code. And when I mutated as a chief product and technology officer of FreshBooks, and now as a founder building Branco AI, I realized that it's really about how the team grows, align, and generate impact together. So hello, everyone. I am Stefano, so you get to know me. I go by him and his, and I'm based here out of Toronto. I've been with FreshBooks for the last 6.5 years. And again, I was leading engineering, product, and design. And that was a fantastic experience and a really humbling one, too. Now I'm a founder at Branco AI. And as you can see from my very linear career, everything was written from the beginning. In my happy place, you can find me play with my 3 kids and my partner, Lisa, or enjoy a few sports like diving, motorcycling, and climbing, stuff that really keeps my brain focused in the moment. I'm also a paramedic instructor and a firefighter, which is really needed in our line of business. And, but like many of you, the thing I like the most is actually to build stuff. And it's something I love to do since my beginning and my whole career. So I'm here to share with you some learning along the way, some very hard-earned lessons about scaling engineering team and culture, and the kind that sustains the momentum, just not sprints toward burnout, and to flex the muscle you didn't even know you have yet, and sometimes might actually shape your careers. The velocity trap. We are measuring speed. We need to measure speed. But what we really, really need to measure is impact. It was just said also during the panel, like impact-based metrics are very important. Engineering velocity metrics are also important. Cycle time, PR merge, all useful output. And, but they're not the levers. They're not what moves our company forward. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of DevOps, automate everything. I obsess over observability, deployment frequency, MTTR, LTFC. Someone in the audience know that very well. But they're not enough. And they're not enough anymore. So when I moved from engineering to actually having a larger view on product and design as well, the team was shipping really fast. But the more we look into it, is the product was not actually progressive as much. It was not progressing, it was not growing as much, it was not innovating the way we want it to be. And there was a huge disconnect between what we were tracking and what we were achieving. So we were pedaling harder, but not straight to the value. High-performance engineering today, but more as we go forward, isn't going to be about fast delivery. It's about direction and systemic compounding from learning. Let the robots take care of speed. I'm sure that all of you here, from your CEO, from your board, efficiency, and all these other metrics that are really important, but especially now that the speed has tools that we never had before. They really can improve some X our productivity. But some thousands of code without the right direction on what provides value to our customer are completely useless. You might as well have taken vacation. You'll be actually the first generation of leaders whom I experience leading team where there are hybrid, not only hybrid workers, but hybrid humans. They are going to be agents working with your people that you can actually talk to. And the feedback is going to be much different and many of this stuff. But this is not an if, it's just a when. You are going to experience that. And in this world, in this new world, actually velocity will become more and more of a commodity. And your human capital becomes actually even more important, not less, even more than before. So I'm going to start talking about the learning engine. So when people ask me, how do I know that someone is a great leader? How do I hire great leaders? What am I looking for? I just look for the curious, the ones that want to learn a new job, the ones that they assume they don't know everything. Because each step of your career, and I think, I can't remember if Rob talked about this, but each step of your career is a new job. You don't know that job, right? When you know it, you're CTOs. Every step you made, imposter syndrome, everyone, every day. And when you go there, you're like, you're going to learn. And you probably have the potential. But that's the thing. You need to hire for the people that want to learn. And the best team I've found are not the ones that are the fastest. They tend to. But they're actually the ones that believe they get better together. And when I say team, I don't talk only about people reporting to the same manager. I'm talking about actually people that work together. In some reality, this is how it actually works. To do that, I think you need to think about 3 drivers. One is clarity. Do we know why we are doing what we are doing? The goals, the intent, the product strategy. Do we know? And not us as a CTO. Do we, the whole team, does everyone knows? Feedback. Are we learning how we are working together? Are we having greater? Are we understanding our behavioral feedback? And then there is growth. Are we improving what we are capable of? Are we improving our skills? Are we improving our soft competencies? Are we improving in our behaviors and habits? Working on Branco AI. Branco AI works on removing performance review from the planet. It's a thing that I think every one of us will love. We are very, very early on that. But what we have seen with teams we're working on, that if there is high clarity, high growth, but no feedback, there's burnout. If there is high feedback, high growth, but no clarity, it's bad for business. There's no outcome. If there is high clarity, high feedback, but no growth, people just leave. You don't want that. So let's start with the first step, the vision. And actually, it's day-to-day, it's children. So the vision is where we're going. You want to make sure that you inspire and you have a purpose. Your people need to see something that does not exist today. And then his first children is the strategy. Where are you going? How? What is the path that you choose to get there? And you need to make sure that everyone in your organization has it very clear. If you ask what is our strategy and they don't know it, or even worse, if you did not explain it to them, that's on you. Then it comes with objectives. So the OKR, we all know what OKR are. We also know that we 90% of the time do them wrong. We look at not outcome, but we look at output. Big difference between the two. The reality is, in OKR, you really want to say the needles you want to move. You don't want to say how. You want to leave the team alone. You want to cascade those OKR, allow them to come back and tell you how wrong they are. And that's the big point. Because after you set your objective, the only thing you need to be doing is waiting until, or soliciting the team to come back and tell you how wrong they are. And then you need to work on them and cycle through this until you are all aligned. If you go down to that, I heard something that I actually very much disagree with, very respectfully, but I don't believe you should cascade OKR to individuals. I believe the smallest unit you cascade OKR to is the pod, is the actual operational team that works together towards an objective. Because OKR are about objectives, are about outcomes. Your individual needs to have their aspiration aligned to your objective. They need to be able to get their growth, and I'm not saying a promotion, I'm saying actually their personal career growth based on their day-to-day job. That's the important part that the leader does, right? It's not assigning a goal, it's actually aligning what we are going as an organization, as a team, with what this person wants to go. That way, they feel the ownership, they feel the purpose, and they see why they are working on some particular things, because it impacts also them directly. This has nothing to do with me. It's actually the firefighter behavior other than the system designer behavior. Because culture is actually not what you say. You can say whatever you want. But it's what you systematically reinforce. it's what leaders do, so not just you, but the leaders that work with you, and what policy you allow and promote and push. So some practical shift that you need to do if you are operating in firefighter mode and you want to be operating in the more future-proof system designer is you want to review the outcome, not just the outputs. We don't care how many lines they've write. We don't care how many PR they do. We care how much that create value. So ask yourself, which needle did we move? Did we move any? 1 week without moving any needle might be OK, but when it's too much. Team behaviors and connection with OKR is very, very hard, but it's a way to prevent fire from starting or spreading. So clarifying the vision and really looking out to get there is mandatory. However, how do we behave to get there is a way more difficult piece to do, but is the best long-term investment you can do for your organization. And then growing a competency model that lives inside leadership behavior and inside everything you do on your day-to-day and your one-on-one, and not in just forgotten documents that might be somewhere in your wiki. Skills are easy, competencies are hard, and do the whole manager live the same way our values? Do our director, do I, and do our team? Big question you need to ask. So, like, would you ever run your culture 1.0 when now you're running your culture 3.2? Your culture is like your code base. Try to version it, test it, and see, and assume that your culture will be disrupted and evolve. It needs to. The question I have for you is, are your teams just getting busier or they're getting better? How do you see the growth and how do you measure the growth as the real compounding edge? I'm going to give you a framework with 3 A's on this one. So the first one is ask. What does great look like? And you can ask this question on top of your objectives. You can ask this question on top of your skill metrics. You can ask this question on top of the day-to-day work. How does great look like? And does everyone know? Big question for the skip level. How does great look like? Then you align. Are we reinforcing the behaviors we want to see in our goals? Are we reinforcing in our career path? Are we reinforcing then in what are the expectation level after level and in the growth of the individual? And the last one is amplify. How do we turn the learning into repetitive patterns? How do your team know what you are going through, what you are thinking? A good tool for this is, I don't know if you do it, but I found great advantages in just sending a Slack message once a week. That Slack message contained what happened to the team, what should we celebrate, birthday, not birthday, whatever. It contained a part about what's occupying my mind, what am I working on. It contained a part about the big win and the big challenges ahead. And then it had what's coming next for us. I think that that is part of the amplification, part of getting more people understanding where we're going. This is the TLDR. I'm trying to be quick. I'm separated from the cocktail, so we're gonna be quick. I think that those are a lot of stuff if you look like this, and they sound like a lot of work. But you cannot avoid it, or you cannot avoid it anymore. And if you're wondering where to start, like you have to do all of this. You cannot decide that one is more important than other. Those are all must-haves. But if you don't know where to start, probably start with alignment. Like make sure everyone understands the big picture. But the important part is this has to be continuously done on a weekly basis. And you need to ask yourself if everyone has this very, very clear. This is actually also why we built Branco AI. We actually automated all of this, so you don't have to think about it and have 75 spreadsheets and Word documents. So that's very important. It needs to be systematic, if possible, effortless, but it needs to be continuous and all of these pieces. So I'm going to leave you with a question, and then I hope you're going to have some questions, which is, what's the one system you will upgrade this quarter or this week to make your team better and not just faster? Thank you. All right, so let's go question number 1. Have you encountered resistance when trying to shift your team or leader culture to long-term sustainable? Absolutely, yes. Yes, that is a problem you have to probably work with your first team. So your executive team, that is the first team that you really need to work on these pieces. Your team, the team reporting to you, the engineering, that's going to be easier. For 2 reasons. One, because obviously you have the title to do it, and that makes everything easier. But the other part is that's actually what they really want to have. Even they don't say it. You know, the long-term sustainable and long-term objective, that's what they want to have. When we talk about leadership, there are many, many counterparts that you need to take care of. So if you're talking about a leader of sales, that becomes a little bit of a more of an heavier question. And when you look at culture, I think it's a discussion you need to have. What are our values? How do they look into the day-to-day? How do we achieve this strategy without demolish the people that are here with us today and burning them out? So yeah, you're going to encounter resistance all the time. Your CEO wanted your next feature yesterday. They wanted you to deliver the roadmap. That's what we do. But the reality is you can push back as well. And what they really want is for you to deliver outcome. They tell you to deliver the roadmap because that's the only way they see a straight line to outcome in their opinion. But it's a thing that you can go back and discuss, because if you don't see that outcome, maybe it's not there. If you focus on measuring outcome, how can you reward good behaviors that just didn't work out? That is a fantastic question. Outcomes are results. They are not output. Output are easy. You say what you want, you get what you want. Simple, one-to-one. Outcome, normally you have no idea how to get there. You know the result you want to achieve, but you don't know how to get there. You probably are the least person that knows how to get there. Your team might know much better than you how to get closer to that, but they have to experiment. So normally a culture of outcome does not exist without a culture of experimentation. So you need to make sure that failure is okay, learning is a must, and experimentation is the meaning to get there. So the difficult part about this is not really how do you reward a good behavior, because if you build it really in an experimentation way. So, you know, there is good behaviors. I think good behaviors here might mean good meaning, like good, like they do their best more than they are good people. But so failed experiment is learning. It's very important for achieving outcomes. The problem you're going to have is when you talk to your peers. Like in your first team again, with the executive team, making them understand that cultural outcome is based on a culture of experimentation. Experimentation means 90% of the time you're going to fail, but you're leaving for the remaining 10%. That is what is a little bit more complex. But once you get that first result, then everyone gets to understand the other pieces. How would you answer the question what great looks like? I cannot. What great looks like in one company looks very different in another company. I give you an example. Before being at FreshBooks for almost 7 years, I was in a company called Soti. 2 amazing Canadian unicorns, beautiful, beautiful products. What great look like in one company is actually the opposite of what great look like in the other company. A company that values a lot competition and be the best might have a grade that looks like completely different from a company that values collaboration and alignment. So it's based on your company. I cannot really answer that question. I would say that probably working with your team and the people reporting into you is the thing that will bring you closer to the answer to that question. What do you present to your exec team to give them the confidence that your team is performing as expected and assure that there isn't room to perform better? I would never say that. I would say that if I don't get better 1% every day, I fail. So no, there's always room to get better and to perform better. My point is, it is a very big mind shift for people and for executive teams to think in terms of outcomes. And that is mostly because a lot of the functions in your organization, differently from yours, are used to output is very much correlated to outcome. How many leads you have in the pipeline, how many qualified leads, how many prospects, has a direct correlation to how much sales you're going to make. It is kind of mathematical. It becomes almost mathematical. In your case, if you want real innovation, if you want the product that no one knows it can exist, you have none of that. So I think that you're part of the executive team. You need to build that culture of trust and the culture of shared understanding that your team is the best you can have on doing the work you're doing. And that usually comes with something that is data-driven on outcomes. So there is a thing we used to use. We used to call it impact readout, which basically means since we want to achieve that outcome, we need to define together with the rest of the executive team or the people in their function that is collaborating with the cross-functional team, we need to define what are the leading indicators that tell us we are going to move that needle. So if you see a line that's going down and you want that line to go up, this team is going to have to work and say, what are the leading indicators? And then you start presenting very frequently, can be monthly, can be quarterly, can be weekly, how that leading indicator is moving. And so that is very important because it creates basically the synchronization on the same frequency of what the team is seeing because they are closer to the data and what your executive team is seeing that they are very much close to the lagging indicator that they're going to see in 3 months, but normally correlated to the leading indicator you can show today. So we use the tool, we call it impact readout, and we show them basically what are the leading indicators we want to affect so they would understand why the roadmap is like that or is changing because we are seeing some behavior in the leading indicator. Is there actually any objective way to measure the value of an IC? If not, I don't know any. How to get people to stop pretending there is? I don't know. Is Jen around? So I think the answer to your question is there is a way that can be as close as possible to objective to measure the value that an IC provide to your organization in their current position. That maybe you can have something that gets close to that. The overall value of an IC, I also don't know of any. And yes, I find that all the quantitative measurement that we are trying to pretend they are good, they are not. And that's the title, Engineering Velocity is a Lie. I don't believe that many of these metrics are actually telling us anything about IC. They might tell us about our system. They might tell us about our automation. They're not telling us too much about ICs. Obviously, if you have a more qualitative way to measure that, like peer feedback, like continuous 360s and things like that, then I think it what becomes a little bit more closer to the value of an IC. Okay, your point about A/B testing culture experiment, like you test feature. What are the risks versus pro of testing cultural things like this? The risk is confusion, unless you talk to your team, and you get them to understand that that is an experiment. And how can you ask your team to experiment on the product to our customer if we don't experiment to how we work together? So I think that, yeah, there is confusion, and there is, especially for new entry, if you have a new hire coming in, and they don't know you're working and experimenting on culture, they might think you are a Matt Cage. So it's like it's probably good to let them know in advance. But yeah, that's it. OK, thank you. I don't know who's next.